Hi there, I'm Joey.
I'm Jacob.
And we are watching Star Trek for the first time. Last time on Star Trek, everyone was in their comfy fall sweaters and taking on gods and all that. It was a good time.
Personally, I would love one of those sweaters. They look super comfortable.
And Kirk got an actual personality, which I thought was pretty good.
Yeah.
Today, I feel might be a significantly different story. Today we are watching The Naked Time.
What? 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 Hold on, what? It's called The Naked Time?
It's called The Naked Time. I know of a promo image from this episode, which is just basically shirtless George Takei. And that's about it.
The Naked Time.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I really don't know what we're in for. But with a title like that, I mean...
With a title like that, and the only image that I think we could see here in Paramount Plus...
is shirtless George Takei. I mean...
God, Lord only knows it's going to be brilliant, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm very excited. Let's see what we get into. We're getting to post-episode thoughts in just a moment. We are about to watch The Naked Time. Huh.
Yeah.
So, okay, what kind of started off as like, haha, funny shirtless George Takei episode, like, turned into just, like, some really high sci-fi concepts.
Yeah.
That I really want to learn more about in this show, and I'm assuming they'll touch on eventually.
I mean,
it's a very episodic show.
But you don't end the episode like you do and never use that idea again.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe. It's possible.
Yeah, who knows.
I said this during the episode that, like, there's based off of my understanding of, like, going into this whole project, is, I was like, man, there's a lot of character development early on I did not anticipate.
Yeah. So this episode's about, Spock and this guy named Joe. this guy named Joe go down to this planet, and Joe, like a fucking idiot, like touches something on the planet
without a glove.
Yeah, and then rubs his face and goes back up, and then suddenly there's an alien virus, and it turns into a ship only episode, which I was a little disappointed by at first, because I was like, okay, oh nice, more alien planets, but I guess not. So he brings this virus onto the ship, and the virus slowly begins, like, working its way through the crew members of the ship, and what the virus does is it takes away, like, your inhibitions, basically, like, this mask that you put on in front of people, so,
right.
like...
Without explaining everybody's.
Yeah, so, like, but, like, Joe has this, like, deep-seated fear of humanity venturing through the stars that he's suddenly just, like, ranting and raving about constantly, and he wishes he were dead because of it. My fucking god. This gets to, this guy named Riley, who is just drunk, pretty much.
Yeah, he's basically picture his whole thing being an Irish drunkard all the time.
Yeah, and then it gets to Sulu, and Sulu turns into one of the Three Musketeers. And he's shirtless, and he fights with a sword, and it's great. It's the best part of the episode.
But by far my favorite introspection is on Spock again.
Yeah, it gets to Spock, and it happens at this moment where he's with this nurse that has been infected with the virus, and she touches him and confesses her love to him. And as he is infected with the virus as well, his inhibition, his fear is feeling things.
Because he's half human, which I'm guessing is rare.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, not to say everything, but, like, he's like, I never told my mother I loved her. I resented the traditions of my father. It's like...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and, like, you get a really standout performance from Leonard Nimoy here. Like, it's really cool.
There's this great long shot that just keeps moving around
the
room.
Yeah, pans around the back of him, and he's just breaking down at this table.
And he's trying to stay focused. He's like... He's
just like counting like even numbers, you know, like trying to like count up, and he gets stuck, and he's just like focused on this one idea, and it's so good. It's such a great moment, I think.
And then right at the end,
yeah. So then we introduce time travel to this show. So part of like Riley's thing is that he like fucked with the ship's engines, and it's gonna like fuck up the ship or whatever, and they fix the engines. And
by presumably just blasting it with nothing but antimatter.
Yeah.
Which I don't even know how they hold.
Yeah, they just started talking about how they're like it's a theory of combining matter with antimatter. It's like, is it? Did we talk about this? Was this established? But no. So they do that. The engines implode. Spock says, and what happens is because the engines implode, the ship literally starts going backwards in time. It's going at a certain speed, and because the engines imploded, it goes back in time, and they go back 3 days. They say they have 3 days to relive, and it's a weird idea. It is literally what they say.
Yeah. I said it's a very smooth way to introduce time travel, if nothing else, for a random episode. If you want to do like, we need to explore a planet's past, here's how we can accomplish such a thing.
Oh, totally. But yeah, again, just really weird, like, just high sci-fi concept comes in at the end here.
Yeah.
In what is pretty much a fun episode for the most part, aside from the, guy being afraid of space, which is really interesting because I was talking with my other friends about this, and I was talking with you about this, like the William Shatner interview that he did, where he talked about how scared he was of space when he went up there with Jeff Bezos.
And he honestly said a lot of the same things that Shatner had to say.
Yeah. Joe, this character here, he like says a lot of the same things, and it's like, that's a little scary. That's really scary.
Yeah.
Just interesting though. Really, really interesting. Also, this is like the first episode where I think we've had like pretty much the whole crew in one episode.
Yeah, we saw every major cast member.
Yeah. Obviously, you had Kirk, Spock, and McCoy there, but we saw Uhura, we saw Sulu, we saw Scotty, we saw Janice. Everyone was here. I think it was the first time we'd actually hell, they were even like all in the same shot at the end there.
Yeah,
like they were all there except for Scotty. But
cool,
still,
because he was in the engine room.
Well, yeah,
I imagine he's in the engine room a lot, actually.
I would hope so. But yeah, so it was like the first time that we'd actually like seen all of them together, and it was just just really interesting, I think. Yeah. Also, we never mentioned Kirk being affected briefly by the virus. There's literally a slap fight between him and Spock.
But I thought his inhibition was interesting because he's basically like, I can't date, I can't fall in love, I have to be like focused on the ship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and almost in a moment where he almost like confesses his love for the ship, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He says, "I know why we say her," like when we refer to ships, and like he gets like this weird like moment of clarity. I think it's really bizarre, but really, really interesting. There are very few crew members in this episode that don't get infected by the virus, though. Like McCoy doesn't, Uhura doesn't, and neither does Scotty. Those being the big. Oh, Janice doesn't either.
Janice doesn't either. Yeah.
Janice once again is being harassed by a guy
who's just like, what, singing to her?
Yeah. See, it's the same song that Riley is singing, right?
No, it's a different song.
You're right. Yeah. A very similar song, though.
Right.
And just poor Janice, just constantly being harassed.
Yeah.
Oh, that sucks. Anyway, but yeah, no, I just overall just a really solid episode.
Yes, I very much enjoyed it.
Definitely, just not at all what I expected.
God, no, not given that title and thumbnail.
All I knew that it was that it was called The Naked Time, and there's a shirtless George Takei with a sword, and that's it.
I thought it'd be way more. Here's a random romp in space.
Yeah, and maybe some weird Star Trek horniness, and there was a tiny bit of that.
Not nearly as much as both the image and name suggested.
Yeah. I was expecting a far different episode going into this one, but I am happy with what I got in the end. So I wouldn't say it quite reaches the highs as Where No Man Has Gone Before.
No, that is still my favorite episode.
Yeah, but this was really solid though. I very much enjoyed this. So
definitely above Charlie X anyway.
Yeah, I think a lot of things are going to be above Charlie X. So, alright, I guess that about does it. Be sure to join us next week. We're going to continue next week with an episode that I'm personally very excited for a certain reason. So, we'll get into that next time. Until then, this has been Joey Morgan.
I'm Jacob.
Goodbye.